ties it perfectly to the direction we're going here. We're in the second week of a series, and we're diving in to try to find joy, peace, and fulfillment. By the way, Brenda, I'm sure that someone is in Houston today telling Joel that John Stahl is my favorite pastor. So we'll leave now. I'll be good. So we're good to go. But that's forgiven. So we love you. No. I love Joel too. I think he's super guy. Super guy. All right, we're going to be in Romans chapter 12 today. I want to point something out here real quick. When you read the verses up here, we just got this new program, and in the program, we can download the songs, and then we can also download a version of the Bible. So we downloaded the NIV, which is the Bible that you see in front of you in the pews. And when I came here to church first, they said, this is what we preach from, so this is what we're going to use. And okay, I'm fine with that. Well, when it downloaded, the new international version is from 2011. And so those Bibles have been there for a long time. And my Bible that I've had for a long time as well, so it's probably not the 2011 version. The reason I share that is it's the only NIV that gives us a chance to choose from. And so because of that, they might be slightly different, so that everyone is aware, okay? Now, before we head into today's message, because this is very intentional about what we're doing, it's going to tie in everything, the steps we're taking for this week too. All of the senior high and junior high, young people and leaders, I want you to stand up because you're going to follow Jordan and Bethany through those doors, and then you're going to head to the front room. This is your time, this week and next week. So senior high, it's okay, stand up. There you go. Junior high, 6, there we go. You're all going to head out together. Follow Jordan and Bethany. Jordan's the tall one, Bethany's not quite as tall. There you go, join each other. You have really nice couches in there. You can throw your feet up. Just kidding, Nathan. Enjoy your time. All right. Isn't that great? All right. You got a nice haircut. All right, they kind of cleared out now. Since they left, let's talk about it. All right. Romans 12 is where we're going to be today. So we all had a moment here recently that brought us together. And not only did it bring us together, it brought people from all over the world together, whether we realize it or not. And so this moment that took place, you may never ever see again. And that moment was when the Indians won the 22nd game in a row. Yes, it is a record. This whole 19 whatever with the Giants, they had a tie in the middle, so they won 22 straight games. And the amazing thing is, everybody took part in it. Everybody knew, on Facebook, they called it Windians, and they were like, I can't believe this happened again. I saw this guy hit this hit, and it didn't matter what it was, that we would all tie together and we would do whatever we could to get to see either part of, all of, half of, especially the ending of the games, because we wanted to see them continue to do this. And through this time, Cleveland not only embraced the nation, but with everything else that was taking place, everyone was able to pause for a moment and say, wow, this is something big. And it is something big. And Cleveland went from being just the Cleveland Indians, literally they said that they are now, quote unquote, America's team. That's what this streak did, because it's never been done before. And then 2 nights ago, we're all holding on, and they had just won the game the night before, and the guy that had the winning hit was back up, and oh my goodness, is he going to do it again? There's a guy on base. If he hits a double, it brings the guy in, and then he strikes out. And then everyone's like, oh, it ended. Well, it had to end sooner or later. They were going to win every single game. Tommy Lasorda once said, you're known by how good of a team you are by every team is going to lose a third of their games. Every team is going to win a third of their games. It's what you do with that final third. Well, 22 straight games has just never ever been done in history before. And so Rick Manning, who played for the Indians, he was a center fielder for the Indians, and he was the next up-and-coming star, he said, you will never see this again. This is a guy who has played the game and been part of the game for over 50 years. And it was that special of a moment and that special of a ride to change a team that is now literally part of America. But here's the thing. What did it do for you? It made you stop every day. It made you check box scores. It made you maybe even go to ESPN.com. It made you even maybe watch SportsCenter, which is that's a whole other discussion. but it's made you do things you didn't think. In fact, you even did this sometimes. You went onto Facebook, and people posted it, and you went like, oh my goodness, they won again. And then you look to see who the post, you're like, oh, I didn't like that person. And you're like, oh, well, if they're an Indians fan, I can like them a little bit. So I can even like the comment. Or, oh my goodness, I didn't know that person was an Indians fan. I mean, it has brought us together in a way that we could not even understand. And so, as we're seeking joy and peace and fulfillment, we actually had and it didn't happen after 5 games, it didn't happen after 7 games, it took until it was like 18 and 19, we're getting closer and closer to the record, that more and more people jumped on the bandwagon, and they came together, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is something special. And now, for the first time in the history of this game, America's pastime, America's team, we all joined together. Isn't that amazing? And as I sat and watched the other night when they came back, I'm like, this is like the coolest thing, like in baseball, that I've seen. And I've followed baseball my whole life. Well, 2 nights ago when it happened, Deanna was heading out and she had to drop some stuff off there and pick something up. Becca was going to spend the night somewhere and she was running a bag over and she had to drop something off in someone's mailbox. And she said to me, hey, I'm going to run and drop this off. She's like, you want to come with me? And it was in the 9th inning, and I was like, I mean, because now I'm going to be this terrible husband if I say no. And if I go, I might, if they come back, then, you know, all this other kind of thing. And so I'm going through this whole thing, and thankfully, being the loving wife she is, she saved me. She was like, you want to watch the game, don't you? And I'm like, oh, yes, I do. And she's like, it's okay, just go ahead and watch the game. And, you know, I'm going to keep her informed of it. It was that big of a thing. But what if our faith was like that? What if every day we woke up, and we started our day out and said, man, I started a winning streak yesterday. And on Friday, I've had 5 straight days where I won for the Lord. Man, for 7 straight days, people have seen God through me. I'm on a 7-day winning streak. And what if it got to 10? What if it got to 15? And then all of a sudden, man, you had that bad day. Because we all have a bad day now, right? And so now that 15 game, I got to start over. I got to start over, and I really, you know, I really didn't represent God the way I wanted to represent Him today. I'm going to start over tomorrow. So we start over, and as a husband, oh my goodness, you know what? I did what God intended me to do as a husband. And as a coworker, I did what God intended me to do as a coworker. I did what God wanted me to do as a boss. I did what God wanted me to do as a student. I did what God wanted me to do as a teammate. Day 3, streak number 7, 15, 20. Man, I'm getting up to that 22. Oh my, I'm at the 22. That's never been done. I've never done that personally before. What if we looked at our faith that way? Because too many times what happens in our walk is we go along for a while and it goes well. And then we kind of get to that point where we talked about last week. It's just kind of this smoldering discontent. Man, I thought there'd be so much more to this. I thought as I learned more about God's Word and I knew more verses, I thought as I dove in more to help people, I thought as, you know, I gave money to this cause, and I helped out in this area, I really thought that I would stay on fire, but I didn't. And then the next thing you know, I'm right back to all the things I was doing, and my spiritual walk isn't really where I want it to be. And what we find, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is because there are so many things that are taking our time within this world that there's nothing left to give to God. Sometimes there is, some days there are, but what ends up happening is instead of bringing everything before Him, just as Abel brought the first fruits of what he had, instead of bringing this living sacrifice before Him, God gets the leftovers. Instead of a full-time passion that we have, it becomes a part-time passion. And then it goes from part-time to spare time. And then it goes from spare time to, man, when's the last time I really did something for God, in God's name? Now listen, this is very important too. If you're a young person right now, and you're like, I am getting to the point where I think that, you know, I might be, you know, be ready to be serious with someone. I'm going to walk down the aisle, and in covenant, I'm going to say these vows before God. And I'm ready to do that. Is your life ready? Is what you're doing, is that pointing to what God wants you to do? Is it something that from a spiritual standpoint, that is going to be uplifting? Is your relationship such that people can see God through you? Or you're going to separate and go, well, I'll go to my church time, then I'll separate from that. And when I'm at church, people see it, because it's easy to see it now, right? It's really easy to see it when we come here together to worship, but then we walk out and it changes everything. You're a young couple and you just had your first child. And he or she is so cute and the apple of your eye, and everyone wants to hold him or her, and you want to squeeze that baby, and then all of a sudden you start realizing, oh my goodness, they were just here, and now they're starting to roll over, and then they're going to start crawling and walking. And are we being that example before husband and wife, so that we're raising that child so that people can see God through it? Which includes your time with your spouse. Are you spending time so that your spouse can see God? Are you spending time so that your husband or wife can see God through you? Guys, this is important stuff. This is big stuff, because what ends up happening is we get so focused on certain areas that one day we finally look back to God. And we're like, man, nothing's going on. And there's just some kind of embers there. And it's a smoldering discontent. You know what? Quite frankly, the bottom line is I got so focused on feeding my kids and making sure they had a retirement and making sure they had the best this and on and on and on, that we get to the point where we're like, there really isn't time for God, is there? There's just no margin. And when we get into finances here in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about that margin and what that margin means, but it also means that margin that we have in our personal walk. We're just not giving it to God. The reason we're not giving it to God is because we're not starting with God. Thankfully, Paul gives us the example today. And in Paul, chapter 12, we get an opportunity to see what this means. And literally, it talks about us being living sacrifices. Now, whenever we think about sacrifices, we think about, well, they're dead, right? You kill something and then you sacrifice it. But we're called to be a living sacrifice before others and before the Lord. So here are the verses, and it starts here. As we're going through this, I really want you to think about the margin that you have for God. And as we're going through this, I want you to look at the different areas and different roles that you have to see if you can recognize God within those roles. Because if not, He's getting the leftovers. So Paul starts off and he says this. He says, therefore I urge you. Some of your versions may say, I beseech you. It's one of those things where Paul is saying, hey, I want you to be aware of this. But here's the thing on top of this. I'm not telling you this is the only way. For 11 chapters, Paul's gone through all these different things that are going on, and great theological discussions that you and I can talk about left and right. But right now, he's saying we got to put this into practice. Because something's going to come that's going to stop you in your tracks. And you're going to look back and go, man, what in the world was I doing with God? Where was God in this? How did I even recognize God in it? And all of a sudden, we're going to stop for a second. We're going to go, I need God more than I've ever needed Him. I got to have Him. And it wasn't God that moved. It wasn't God that changed. It was me. I put it on pause when my teenagers went through high school. And now I wish that I had more time with them and I could talk with them more. When I'm at work, I'm a jerk. I'm a completely different person. I speak a different way. I listen to things I shouldn't listen to. I take part in gossip. I complain. I didn't even used to be like that a year or 2 years ago. And now it's almost every fabric of who I am. So Paul's saying, I urge you. So he's literally trying to pull you and say, hey, listen, wake up. Right now, you need to wake up. I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. See, the sacrifice is alive. When the curtain tore, the animal sacrifice stuff stopped. We didn't need to anymore. We could go straight to God. And part of that sacrifice is for us to put ourselves last. That's joy. Jesus, others, then you. Jesus, others, then you. When we put ourselves ahead of God is when we get ourselves into trouble. We start thinking certain ways. We start acting certain ways. We start doing things we told ourselves we would never, ever do. And we're all there. It happens to all of us. And yet what he is saying is, right where you are today, I'm urging you to be a living sacrifice, because it's the only way that others are going to see God. It's the only way that they're going to see His light. As I was driving to church today, they had this bike race that's going on. And I've been here now for 8 years. And I don't know how long this bike race is going on, but I really only remember for about the last 5. And every time that they're out biking, it's pretty obvious because there's obviously people on bicycles, but all the police officers are at all the different corners to make sure that, no crazy driver is going to run over a biker, which I'm happy for. But it's always on a Sunday. So I get up to the stop sign, there's a few bikers coming by, and I have to wait for them. And I'm like, hey, I'm a little bit late. And no one told me about this bike race, so I'm just going to drive right through them. No, I didn't do that. Waited, they came through, waved at the police officer, went to the next stop sign, waited, turned right, came down the road, kept going. There's biker and after biker after biker. And I was thinking, man, last year and the year before, and last few years, I only saw 4 or 5 people, maybe 10 people riding. Now there's bikers everywhere. You know why? Because Sunday has become just another day. It's just another day. And so I drove by the softball fields, which are in Manchester. They're over by the middle school. And I looked. There's cars everywhere. The parking lot's filled. Didn't used to be like that just a couple of years ago. But the place is filled. And as I kept going, I could not believe how many bikers. And I'm like, man, there are police all over the place. And then I realized something. All the cops are directing traffic. And I can drive as fast as I want. You laugh, but I had this discussion with Grandpa just the other day, and he said the reason that he drives fast is because he just tries to stay up with traffic. But the reason he gets pulled over is because the other people are going so fast that he's the only one the police can catch. So I'm with him. I was just staying with traffic. Except for I was also the one that was setting traffic. So I'm like, I am heading to church. So I got to church as fast as I can. And then I got my mind back on the focus of the message. But did you see what happened there? Because that was my actual true thought. I'm sitting there going, and I'm like, man, God, it's like Sunday's just become another day. And it's like, there's all these bikers. And they're flying past me, and, it used to just be 2 police officers, and, man, all the softball fields, and all of a sudden, where did it turn? Hey, all the cops are going, I can go as fast as I want. Boom, and I hit the gas pedal. That's how quickly that happens. We lose focus so quickly. Now, does anybody see any speed? No. Is there anybody around to go, oh, you shouldn't do that? No. But there was myself. So now I have to make the decision. Do I want to talk to God about this? Is this really that big of a deal to Him? And you know what? The Bible tells us to pray without ceasing, which means to recognize Him in everything. And so as I made that turn, and I knew the speed limit was 25, and I knew within the first couple hundred feet I was already up to 40, I slowed all the way back down. I said, you know what, God? I'm going to try to stay within the limit that you set because someone said it. I will do that. Now, does that make me holier than you? Yes. No, it doesn't. We're all here. We all go into these struggles at times. We all have this. But if my goal is to find joy, and my goal is to have peace, and my goal is to be fulfilled through God, then I need to make myself a living sacrifice first before God, then before others. Paul's sharing this with us today. He says, as your living sacrifice is holy and pleasing to man. Doesn't say man, does it? And that's where many of us get stuck. I said I was going to do this, and this guy said he was going to do that, and I told him this, and I'm going to go out and do this, and I'll show them, and I'll puff my chest out, and they'll do it my way. And how is anyone seeing God through any of that? But we do it because we're more focused at times to having our way as opposed to having God's way. And when that happens, it's not pleasing before God. You're not pleasing, and I'm not pleasing before God. So if you're a people pleaser today, and you're worried about how you look, and you're worried about the car you drive, and you're worried about the house that you live in, you're worried about all those other things, none of those are an issue. None of those are an issue. If we're doing it God's way. I have a friend who has a swimming pool, and he told me, I have this swimming pool so that kids from youth groups can come over to swim in it. So as his kids are going to the youth groups, that they can come over and swim in it. And now he's at the point where he's like, I think I'm getting ready to move, but I want to make sure that the people that move into this house, they use that swimming pool for the same purpose. Is he going to help because he has a swimming pool? No. Is he going to help because he built a swimming pool? No. God gave him the means to do it, but for the pleasing to God. It continues, says, this is your true and proper worship. That means whatever it is that you are out to please is worthy of what you give to it. That is worship. How many people enjoyed the praise and worship today? How many people were lifting their hands? How many people were singing a song? How many people were mad when Brenda said that Joel Osteen's better than me? Right? You know, all those hands. Right? Just make sure we're all on the same page here, right? That was not worthy of God, Brenda. But is our hearts prepared and worthy before God? Don't you feel that way? You know why? Because in those moments, you presented yourself as a living sacrifice. Because they were presenting themselves as a living sacrifice. Usually the talents that God has blessed them with. So how do we know then that we're doing this? Could you go to Luke chapter 1? This is Zechariah's talking. He says this. Luke chapter 1, verse 74 and verse 75. It says this, to rescue us from the land of our enemies and to enable us to serve Him without fear. So how do we know that we're being a living sacrifice? This guy couldn't speak. Now all of a sudden he could speak. And he says this, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies. So, in other words, I'm going to be rescued from all this. I'm going to be rescued from these people that talk about me, that complain about me, that say bad things about me, that want to fight with me. But you know what else I'm going to be rescued from? I'm going to be rescued from my schedule. I'm going to be rescued from this time that I take away from God. I'm going to be rescued from these things that rise up from within me that I know that God doesn't want there. I'm going to be rescued from my own thoughts. I'm going to be rescued from my actions when I'm alone. I'm going to be rescued from my language. I'm going to be rescued from my struggle with. I'm going to be rescued from whatever it is that are my enemies, and to enable us to serve Him without fear. And this is where many of us stop. I really want to do more for God. I really want to reach more people for God. I really want to be a living sacrifice for God, but I am so fearful. What will that person think? What will they say? What if they talk about me when I leave? What if they make fun of me? What if they put me down? What if answers that none of us can answer? But here's the thing. If that's where your worry is, who are you pleasing? Because if we're going to be living sacrifices, and we believe that God is worthy of our worship, we believe He's truly worthy of it, none of that matters. Because we want to be living sacrifices before God. He continues and he says this, in holiness and righteousness before Him all of our days. Oh God, man, can I just give you Sunday and a little bit of Wednesday? I tell you, well, let's pair back up and let's meet our schedules together on Friday. You know, I'm available for breakfast. Oh no, I'm not. I'm available for lunch. Oh no, I'm not. Hey, there's a football game that night. I tell you what, at halftime. Oh wait, halftime's bad too because I'm talking to that one guy, and I like to cuss in front of him. I tell you what, how about after the game? I'm going to take 2 minutes, I'm going to pray, and let's catch up, and then we'll get back together come Sunday. And we think, okay, seriously, no one's going to talk to God that way. But when we get through our message today, and then we don't go out and do anything about it, and then tomorrow we think about it a little bit, and then by Wednesday we're just kind of halfway there, and on Friday we're like, oh my goodness, it's Friday already? Tomorrow I'm going to go golfing, do all my things, and on Sunday I'm going to start over, and this week, this is the time that I'm going to give to God. This is the week I'm going to start being a living sacrifice. There's no margin. We don't have it. Our docket is full. Our kids are in their school and their docket is full. Our after school time now, because we're in so many different extracurricular activities, it's full. It's not going to change, folks. Sunday mornings for sports is not going to change. Wednesday nights for whatever it might be is not going to change. It comes down to this. What is it we are investing our time into? And do we have that margin so that we can choose to give it to God? Because the other side to it is, if we're going to be that living sacrifice, we need to be that living sacrifice at the field, and on the court, and in the schools, and at work. Because the church is hurting when it comes to that. And man, I can give it this hour, and I can give it this hour and a half, and I believe you, and I believe you, and I believe you, and we're all together. said, we all want to be living sacrifices. But man, it is tough. Don't worry. I'm going to give you a few things at the end so we can all find that joy, that peace, and that fulfillment. Let's go back to Romans chapter 12. Verse 2, this is what it says. It says this, it says, do not conform to the pattern of this world. So it stops here and says, do not conform to be the pattern of this world, but instead be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Conformity literally means of this world. You're doing whatever the world does. So, okay, listen, I've got to be at work at this time. I'm not telling you to quit your job, by the way. I got to have lunch at this time. I'm not telling you to change your lunch thing. I've got to be off work at this. I got all this other kind of stuff. And then I'll give it to God. That's what conforming does. But instead, it says to be transformed. There's an absolute change that takes place. Here's the cool thing about this. This transform that is talking about in the Bible, it literally means metamorphosis. So it's like that caterpillar that goes in and into the cocoon that comes out the butterfly. You have no idea what that butterfly is going to look like until it comes out the cocoon, right? But it changed from the inside out. Wait, John, I've made a lot of mistakes. Yep, God can change those. Wait, I have a really, really bad past. Yep, God can change those. Wait, I'm freaking out right now because I just became a mom or dad and I don't know what the next steps are. Hey, listen, God can handle that. Whatever it is within us, we can be transformed from the inside out through God. That's the metamorphosis that takes place. It's one of these two areas. If you're conforming, you're literally like the thermometer, where whatever the temperature is it changes to, you change to. It's 87 degrees outside. I'm going to put on my ski jacket and my ski boots, right? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to have a short-sleeved shirt on and maybe shorts. And we walk outside, and it's 24 degrees. Welcome to Ohio. 87 one day, 25 the next, right? By the way, it's going to be the 80s all week this week. When you go on, it's 24 degrees. You're going to wear a tank top and shorts. A couple people might. But you're going to put a long-sleeve shirt on or a coat on, right? We conform to the temperature, which is the same way in our walk. Someone starts giving us a hard time about our faith, we turn up the heat, kind of back down. Someone's good with it, we'll talk a little more about it. Or the transformation says, instead of me being a thermometer where I'm going by up and down, I am going to set the temperature. Today when I was driving to work, or driving to church, I set the temperature. The speed limit was 25, I knew the cops were out, I'm driving 40. I'm a transformer. Right? No. We stay within God's plan, we stay within the laws we have within this land, but we do it by being a living sacrifice so that others can see a difference in us. And Paul's saying this, I urge you to make this change. I am urging each one of you. Last thing he says, then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. Whoa, listen to this. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. And this is speaking to each one of us personally. I want to know what God's will is. I want to know if I'm in the right relationship. I want to know if I'm running the right path. I want to know if I'm taking the right steps. I want to know if I can be a good mom. I want to know if I can be a good dad. I want to know if I can be a good stepfather or stepmother. I want to know if I can make the right decisions. Test it. Give it to God. So here's the way. You ready? Our margin. We have none. The first thing that we need to do when it comes to finding that joy, finding that peace, and finding that fulfillment is this. We need to make room for change. It's not enough just to read God's Word. It's not enough just to say, I'm going to devote some time. It's not enough to say, 5 a.m. it's going to be me and God. 10 p.m. it's going to be me and God. Because we've read it, we've heard it, but until we live it, there's not going to be a change. That's being a living sacrifice. Sometimes that means we stop to take care of someone. Other times it means we get out of our comfort zone. Maybe there's a ministry that we need to be a part of. We need to serve others. But you've got to make time for that change. The second thing is, we need to check our personal values. One of the things I try to do every day, and I'm very bad at it at times. This morning I read the proverb of the day. So there's 31 proverbs, whatever the day of the month is, you read that proverb and let God talk to you. It's the wisdom that God gave to Solomon. So chapter 17, this is what it said in verse 22. It says, a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And so when we have that smoldering discontent, when we start to worry as our kids are growing, we don't know what the next step is, we don't even know if God is present, we don't even know if God cares, we're anxious, we're worried, we're doubting, all those other kind of things, our spirit is drying up before God and others. And so God tells us a cheerful heart is good medicine. And it's when we die to others, be that living sacrifice, that God finds a way to make us cheerful. The last thing is, some of you aren't going to like this. I'm sorry, let me go back here for a second here, real quick, for the checking your personal values. Here's what I want you to challenge yourself to do. I want you to write down 5 to 7 of your personal values. 5 to 7 of them. And then you ask yourself within everything that you're doing, and you got to be honest. You got to say, self, I'm being serious right now. And you look and see in those personal values where God is in those. One of the things I used to do with my youth group for these young people that are right up here, when they were their age, I would say to them, listen, you make sure that you find someone that loves the Lord. You make sure that you find someone that loves you no matter what. And you make sure that you love someone that is looking out for you. And I would ask the girls, what is it that you're looking for in a guy? And it wasn't looks, and it wasn't a fancy car, and it wasn't a great job and stuff. They were like, I want someone that lives their faith and has God first. And I would tell them this. So when you have kids, you need to tell your kids this. I would tell them, hey, why in the world would you give your heart to someone that hasn't given their heart to God? And it's 15, it's 16, it's 17, and 18, and they're like, oh, that's good. I'll write that down. Get a tattoo. Whatever they do, I don't care. Whatever's necessary to remind you. Put it in stone. I'm going to have it everywhere. I'm fine with that. And almost every single time when they would come back to me, hey, I met him or her. You want to meet him or her? Yeah. Tell me about him. Oh, he's so cute. He's so nice. He's so sweet. He drives the coolest car. Goes to the best school. Was he a Christian? We haven't talked about that yet. The most important thing was the first thing that got put away. We think, man, whose kid would do that? Well, let me ask you. If you're kind of smoldering and discontent and you're struggling with your spiritual walk right now, man, what kind of person would do that? We all would. The most important thing gets pushed to the back. So check your personal values. And here's the last thing. You ready? You're all sitting down, right? We need to get rid of some things. My wife has been on me about cleaning our garage for I can't tell you how long. She laughs about it now. But she's like, we have more stuff. And you realize later it becomes stuff. And if you're like me, you're like, oh no, we might need that. Why would we need that? Well, because someone might actually have an active working 8-track player. So let's keep that. We laugh, but we know there are things out there like that. Because I have to teach my kids what a cassette is when they get older. And we've got a whole big thing of them sticking all the way through, and right? We have these things. Spring cleaning was something that was actually a Jewish tradition. And what happened was, this is why I'm glad you're sitting down, the kids are in the front, you can tell us later, the family would get together. The whole family. And they would clean the house room by room. And the whole focus was you had to get all of the yeast out of the house because you didn't want to have anything that was going to grow that wouldn't be of God. And so the whole family would get together and they would just clean room by room to clear off all of the bad stuff. And so part of the reason that we're worried about just cleaning out our garage is I'm figuring the whole neighborhood thinks we're moving, right? Because we have that much stuff. But wouldn't that be amazing if you grab your entire family to go, okay, room by room, this is what we're going to do. Deanna's over there going, room by room, we bring the whole family, right? We're all doing that. But it starts with us. There are some things we have got to get rid of. And you want to know how you check what to get rid of? You go back to those personal values. Man, is this really uplifting to God? Is my relationship really a living sacrifice before God? Is the way I talk, the way I act in the car, God bless you, really a living sacrifice before God? Is the struggles I have, the darkness in those certain areas, is that really a living sacrifice before God? Or the times when I know I'm not even thinking about God because of the position I have? We've got to create margin. We have to. We've got to check our values and be honest about it. And then it is time for spring cleaning. Now, I don't want you to go away and think, oh my goodness, can't help it. This is actually kind of depressing today, and I really appreciate that. But here's the thing. Next week, we're going to turn this back around as we finish with joy and our peace and our fulfillment. But we want to help you. Some people are wondering why our teenagers are in the front of the church today. And I'll tell you why. I was a youth pastor for 7 or 8 years. I had some of the best students ever. They would come to our house. They would cook for us at times. They would watch our kids. They would hang out with us. We would meet them outside of school. We would go to games. I used to go and have lunch with them. I would go to Garfield, and there was a Jewish guy there, and I would walk in with my Bible. He was like, "Are you studying that with someone?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You get your butt in there and go." They wouldn't let Jim Tressel in, but they let me in. Because they were like, "You are a favorite football coach, not Jim Tressel." That's how it works. Okay? And they allowed me in. We had a great time. And these kids would take all the food and they'd throw it all together not on plates, on the tray. And we'd eat it all together, and we'd have fun and joke and laugh. And 2 people became 3 people, and 3 people became 5, and 5 people became 7, and 7 became 20. And when you think there's no way it can happen, when you allow God in, you'd be amazed at what God can do. But what always frustrated me is I'd get these kids to graduation, we'd have 20-some graduation, and then we get to the fall, and there'd be 5 of them left. I'm like, "Oh, did 20 of them go off to school?" No, we had nowhere for them to go to. Jesus said to go and make disciples in His name. And there are at least 10 kids in there today that need to have people to put their arms around them. So in February, guys, if you're like, "I need something. I need to be mentored. I want to be a mentee. I want someone to put their arm around me." Ladies, if you're like, "I need other women within my life," you get to start early, October 4th. But we're going to go down that path of discipleship together. Here's the thing. Nobody measures it in churches. You know why? It takes time. Jesus discipled His disciples for 3 years before they became apostles. But we need to be willing, as a living sacrifice, to invest into young people, to invest into other people, to invest in other guys and other gals. We need to be willing to do so. Because I believe it should be one of our priorities. And I believe it should be one of our values. And I believe that when we sit down and talk about these things, we're going to realize that, hey, there's some spring cleaning I need to do, but that God can do it because I want to know what God's will is. What'd you do this week? Oh, I went to a kid's soccer game. I went to a kid's football game. I went to a kid. That meant the world to that kid, that young person who's going to become a young adult soon. And then later, hey, they sent me a text. Hey, we're going to grab a Mountain Dew. And hey, they're coming over to the house to watch football. And you know what? They've got tickets to a football game, or they've got whatever it is. We're going to go frisbee golf. We're going to hit golf balls. Who knows what it is? We're going to just sit and talk. We're going to watch a movie. All to lift up God so that, as a living sacrifice, you're teaching others to be a living sacrifice. And when the struggles start to go away, we start to find more and more joy. We start to find more and more peace. We start to find more and more fulfillment as we become those living sacrifices before God. Just right where you sit, if you just bow your heads and say a prayer right now. The praise team's going to come up. And as they head through, don't worry, all the teenagers, if you have a teenager, they're going to be coming out here in just a little bit. Their warning sign is that the music is going to start. Over the next few months, they're going to be answering questions that they didn't know they had. But they're great questions. It's based around those teenagers. And they're going to be free to talk about it. They're going to be free to grow. And we're going to do what we can to put our arms around them. But before then, what about putting our arms around one another? So right where you sit today, would you just say, okay, God, where is it in my schedule that I need to find margin for you and with you? And what are the things that are important to me? I want to be a great dad, but I want to be a great dad that shows God. I want to be a great mom, but I want to be a great mom that shows God. I want to be a great spouse, ministry with. I want all those things. So where is it, Lord, that I can be that sacrifice before you? I know I have some things I need to clean, and I need to put away. But at the end of the day, Lord, I want your joy. I want your peace. And I want your fulfillment. So just take a few minutes just right now. It's just you and God talking about those things.